you're in for a treat today as far as what we're doing is a roundup, an impact roundup. So it's going to be snippets of several projects, but not all throughout the semester, just to tease kind of what you'll see coming later on in the summer. All right, go for it, Nan.
Thanks, Liz. So I worked on community planning, and community planning focuses on projects that work towards community development through community engagement in order to implement recommendations and changes that improve overall community quality of life. Community engagement the aspect plays a major role because engagement provides a gateway for real improvement and impact on real lives. One of our most recent projects exceeded our expectations, I believe. The Masters of Urban Planning Capstone Studio course of spring 2022, which brought together 17 students along with their professors Ripkos, Nahura, Zandia Tashbar in partnership with Reimagining Civic Commons and Guadalupe River Park Conservancy, and of course, CommUniverCity, to collect information on park users, habits, and how they use the park, and to see what changes they desire to see at the park as well. And with this information, the Conservancy would be able to reimagine programs and social infrastructure that would engage more community members and gain more park users, all the while creating a safe space for all users. Some of the data that was collected through this extensive research showed that women were less likely to spend time at the park than men. In fact, men were 12% more likely to exercise at the Guadalupe River Park than women. Many of the reasons stemmed from safety concerns in the park, but overall, 3/4 of the park users found that the Guadalupe River Park is a positive impact on the community because it offers green outdoor space that is somewhat of a refuge from our urbanscape in downtown San Jose. And the work these students take part in and the practice that they learn to develop being community engagement is incredibly invaluable. Many of the changes we see in the communities many of the changes that we do see in communities are places where community members' voices are neglected or unheard, and it impacts their lives very negatively. They can suffer from displacement or homelessness, and so this sort of engagement is incredibly crucial to the livelihoods of many people. And the impact of this project just extends far beyond the duration of the project scope. These are just small dips into a larger change that is aimed at improving the lives of unheard communities. And this project in particular, where they focus on the Guadalupe River Park, is expected to extend to the following semester, which is somewhat rare because usually each semester is a different project. And even if it's a continuation, they usually skip the semester in between, but they are intending to continue it, which is incredible. And it'll be with Professors Gordon Douglas and Ahura Zandia Tashbar once again. And so that is our brief on community planning.
Thanks, Nan. So if we'll go on to the next slide, Matt. So there are 3 main things I want to point out. One, here you see 14 community leaders who have just graduated from the community leadership program. And I'm pointing out 3 main areas of growth that we took from the data that was self-reported in pre and post surveys. First is recruiting. What these numbers mean here is the 50% is that they were in agreement at the start of the program that they had good recruiting skills. By the end of the program, 71% of them had or felt that they had great recruiting skills. And what this means for us is exponential network growth, or growing our networks. So their networks, but also ours by extension, right? So that's the first thing I wanted to point out there. And then in the second row, we know that doing note taking and asking questions and facilitating, these are all learning curves for the types of community members who usually end up being in CLP. So a 7% growth in that area is actually really good, I think. But what I like about this one is that even with that learning curve, the participants still feel empowered to ask questions and design questions that are going to help them navigate through the structure of decision makers to ask the right people the right questions and get the information and the outcomes that they want. The third one is the presenting and the confidence to speak. Long-term continuity and involvement in this program, and Carolina's article that was published last year, the professor who was teaching the program for a few years, and this year's growth of almost 30% tells us that every year, the residents are empowered to speak more, to speak louder, to speak confidently. So herein lies the evidence that the community leadership program has results. But I guess when you spend 500 hours in training as a group, you are bound to feel a little bit more empowered. Yes. Next slide. And so this teaser of sorts that we're doing is kind of part of our 4 suites that we'll be highlighting over the summer. This one is student learning and community earning, and these are projects that are designed to immerse students and residents in entrepreneurship, advertising, and economic development. And if this name sounds familiar, it's because you helped name it. So thank you for that help. I think Joan was the initial designer of the general idea of this title. But I want to show up here the 3 pictures, and you'll see that there were 185 SGSU learners. These are 3 combined classes of service learners. At the top there, you see the group picture of students, service learners from San Jose State in an intro to marketing class who are working for Hunger at Home, who delivers food, right? But they have 3 other branches of their nonprofit. And so those students all design campaigns for the purposes of the educational branch, the food distribution branch, and a couple of other branches for Hunger at Home. So that's almost in-kind work on top of the service learning, in-kind work for Hunger at Home to be able to reach more people, to feed more community members, because even after the pandemic, we're in a situation, right? And then the second picture you see is of family night. I believe this picture might have been taken by Tim, who's with us today, even after he's completed his hours for his communication studies class. But we also had family night with Young Entrepreneurs Academy. And I really enjoyed this night because there was a small business owner who came out that night, and she's like, I have a small business, and I came for my kid because I'm a small business owner and I wanted her to learn something, but I also learned something as far as motivating teams and employees that I can work with and that I can use with them. So that's the third picture. And then marketing and the blue cow. I really wanted to show the blue cow, but on the right there, you see the in-person presentations that they gave, and the materials that they produced were really great quality for 2 local businesses, Yobox, yoga and boxing combined, for the Good Spot, a restaurant just down the block from Yobox, and then Chopsticks Alley, an arts nonprofit focusing on, I believe it's Southeast Asia art. So I have to do a plug for in-person presentations, because the difference between in-person presentations and virtual is night and day. So we're hoping to see you all very soon in person. Now, as far as the investment for this project specifically, for the hours that they invested in creating these materials and presenting to community members, we're at about $55,000 of an investment that we would have had to pay someone if they were to do these programs in the community. Next slide. All right, go ahead, Hasina.
All right, so the Growing Sustainably is a suite of projects that includes garden education, cooking matters, and environmental education. And the garden education project was one of our big projects this semester. It was a 6-week lesson series that we conducted at the Coral program at Olander Elementary, McKinley Elementary, and the Think Together program at Grant Elementary. And we had 58 participants across the 3 schools, and the lessons were taught virtually by a few San Jose State interns. And the students learned about topics such as plant anatomy, seasonality, composting, plant relationships, and where their food comes from before it gets to the grocery store. And they also learned a few nutrition concepts and the benefits of eating locally. And the picture you see on this slide is a few of our interns assembling gardening kits that we provided the students. Each of the kits consisted of a green onion plant and an activity journal, and all these kids were really excited to report their plant's growth each week and enjoyed the activities for each of the lessons.
All right, thanks so much, Hasina. Next slide.
All right. So for the Sweet College Golden Culture, it encompasses a group of projects that aim to encourage younger students to pursue higher education. And this is through firsthand experiences with college students. So with EIA and Geology Rocks, what that looks like is STEM-based lessons. And for College Day, what that looks like is getting to hear directly about college experiences from the students. And so in particular, this semester, Engineering in Action, I wanted to highlight because we got to do in-person presentations for the first time, at least for my coordination experience. Every single lesson that we did for EIA was in person, so the kids got to do a lot of hands-on activities. And it was also a really good practical experience for the SJSU students. Reading the feedback, I saw one that says that the engineering student, he felt that it was a very humbling experience because he realized that teaching is very hard. And as a CHAD major, that made me very happy to hear, because I feel like maybe STEM majors need to be humbled a little bit. And it really broadens the academic horizons for elementary school students. Lots of them learn new vocabulary. They start to really consider careers in STEM at such an early age. And this semester, it was a very good time for EIA and just kind of transitioning off of online presentations in general.
Right, thanks, Christine. Next slide. All right, so I'm just going to point out 3 things here. One, the green and red and blue is almost all of them, right? A little bit under 75% of the students who attended the Advancing Latinx Achievement and Success, which was the first week of March, have a know about their family members who attended college. So it was either none, 1 or 2, or they don't know because they haven't talked about it, right? And so then when we asked them if they're going to share the information that they learned that day, meaning the presentations from the San Jose State students, whether it was like their personal stories or about financial aid and stuff like that, 41% of them said they would be sharing the information they heard during these presentations. So we're taking that as a plus, as a good sign that at least that many students, maybe 40 students, will have more conversations more regularly with their parents about attending college. Now, these are middle school students from ACE Academy. And so what would stop them from going to college? And mind you, this is a school with a population with every inequity you can possibly think of: language barriers, income, and socioeconomic status is among the low, below the poverty line, and just everything you can think of. That this school has it. But when asked what might keep them from going, money was the highest, and it was also the most talked about during the presentations, and their grades was the next one. But for that, we just need a little bit more tutors and service learning, right? Maybe we don't know if that'll fix everything, but it's there. And then a lot of open-ended questions, because they're at a time when they're very vocal and they want to share what they have to say. So we have a lot more questions and a lot more answers that we're going to be sifting through to create more of a story of what it actually looks like at a school like ACE Academy, to see what else we can do, how we can really amp up the motivation for a path after high school. And for this one, this is kind of a bonus project because we don't normally do this in the spring, but this bonus project got us 35 service learners. We reached up to 190 students for an investment into the community of $10,000, $482. All right, next slide. Oh, and sorry, go back one. And I just want to show you the challenge when I say the presentations in person and virtually are night and day. This is the challenge that we have here of us on a really big screen, and then the teacher trying to quiet the kids down and not necessarily showing the kids in the classroom, right? So definitely looking forward to being more in person slowly as time goes on, and we're in a better place, hopefully, with the pandemic. Okay, next slide.